Hello and welcome to the Reading Entertainment Podcast, episode 399 for Mother's Day, May 14th, 2023. Joining me this week, we have Connor, the cyberpunk monk, Besh.
It's me. Happy Mother's Day, all you mothers.
And because it is Mother's Day, we let her out of the basement. It's Nicole Niclotis Robertson Carroll.
Hello, happy Mother's Day to all moms and mom-like figures, chosen and given.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day. How's your slice of bread that we gave you?
It's divine,
Good.
truly.
Did your kid's 4 now? Jesus Christ.
Well, speaking of the devil, he's knocking on the door, talking to me right now.
So
yes, honey, what?
This is perfect etiquette for this show.
Perfect,
I'm so
exactly.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. Bard, sweetie, we're recording right now. Can you come back in a little bit? Go talk to Dad, honey. He can help you.
The joys of motherhood.
Yes.
So
I love this. This child is my whole world, but sometimes I just need him to leave me the hell alone for a little while.
So that my question was, so he's 4, he's to the point where he can like form sentences and thoughts.
So, yeah, we have full conversations. He's a little person now. It's a little nuts, actually.
Yeah. So did he get you anything for Mother's Day?
Yes, he actually did really well. Unlike me, I need to silence my phone. But
I always have my phone silenced. Always.
Trying to be professionals here, okay?
I know. I'm sorry. My do not disturb hours are set for my work hours.
It's okay. Nobody's going to listen to this. You're fine.
Yeah, it's all right. This isn't the one that people listen to.
Well, but no, I got a pretty good haul this year.
Oh, good.
Because Bard, my son, wanted to get me flowers, and so he helped his dad pick out this really cute Lego set that is a bouquet of flowers. So I'm looking forward to building that and putting it on my desk at work.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah. And I also got the Nightmare Before Christmas soundtrack on vinyl, on like specialty like purple and yellow vinyl. So my inner like goth emo scene kid is very happy about that.
Yeah, when I don't do vinyl records, but when
and of course my inner hipster, naturally.
Yeah, when Persona 5 came out originally on, when it first released, I think ThinkGeek had like a set of vinyl records for the soundtrack for that game, and they were all different colors. It looked really cool. And then I
would love to have that one, but it's like $100.
Yeah, I have Nightmare Before Christmas on Laserdisc.
Pretty rad.
Yeah. So it's similar, except for
I was born in the 80s. I use the word rad.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Did you play, or wait, first off, where can we find you? Or do you have any social media links you want to advertise, or do you just want to skip to the what games you're playing section?
Well, I guess at the moment, for just professional purposes, I'm on Instagram, NRC_on_KUNC.
Yeah, not Twitter so much anymore, apparently.
No. We've KUNC as an organization has paused its use of Twitter following NPR's example, and I decided to do the same.
Yeah,
so
you're not missing out on much.
No, you're not missing out on much of anything at all when it comes to Twitter. Like a larger portion of me every day is like, I should just delete this. I should just stop.
Well, I've heard Aroa talking about how quitting Twitter has helped his mental health, and that actually brings me around to something that I want to mention after we talk about the games I've played, because I know that's what you're trying to ask me.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what games have you played this week? We'll do it person by person this week. Why not? Change it up.
Okay.
So what games have you played this week, Nicole?
Okay. So this is going to sound a little bit repetitive, reminiscent of my last appearance on this podcast, because I have picked up today again The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog for the first time since it came out, and I talked about it on this podcast the first time because parenting and full-time job,
And
so
moving.
yes, and moving. But no, I moved. I had already moved after or before my last appearance on the podcast. But in any case, got to pick that back up, and I think I'm getting pretty close to the end. And I wish Aroa was here, because I know he played this and he could kind of offer some insights on it. But it's just really fun. I've had I haven't followed like all of the oeuvre of the Sonic universe and whatnot, but I have a pretty strong connection to it, just in a nostalgic sense, playing the Genesis games and watching the 90s cartoon, the dark, edgy, environmentally messagey one, not the stupid one. So it was really it was just really fun to play that. And also, I finally got back to Horizon Forbidden West, the Burning
second
Shores
game, right?
expansion. Yeah, it's the second game, and the Burning Shores expansion, or DLC. I'm talking about. It sounds like I'm talking about WoW when I say expansion, but anyway, the DLC Burning Shores came out. I think it's about a month ago, and I got a couple hours into it, and then I finally got to pick it back up like last night and today. So my mother's weekend has been mostly devoted to my girl Aloy, and it's been great.
That's
Oh
good.
yeah.
I hear good things about that game. When I was at Sony for a year, somebody told me that when Horizon Zero Dawn, is that what it was?
Yeah, Zero Dawn was the first one.
The first one. When that game came out, leadership actually bought a bunch of people that worked at the studio that game and been like, play this, study it, we're stealing shit.
Yeah, I mean, it is both of those games are just so visually stunning. And even, I mean, I just get so immersed in the world and the character, and it's just really amazing. Honestly, I know this sounds stupid because it's been years and all kinds of things have changed, but it's still really satisfying as a woman to play as a really awesome woman lead character.
What, you want to play as people who relate to you?
I used to dye my hair to look like her a few years ago.
I cannot say that I've ever done that, but I have painted my face to look like. Well, actually,
to be fair, red was my color for a while anyway.
Yeah, I had my girlfriend, do face paint for
I feel like
Halloween
I remember
a couple years ago.
I was gonna say I feel like I remember you having, but that was a wig. Didn't you have a clown wig that one time?
Yes.
Like a decade ago now.
Yes.
You're old, Nathan.
I am getting old. But we're gonna move on to Connor.
I think I'm older than both y'all.
I think you are a little older than me. Yes.
I'm looking down the barrel of 40 now.
I'm still
the best of them.
I'm still a few years off from that, and yeah. We're gonna move on and not talk about our inevitable getting older, and ask Connor, where can we find you?
I was gonna say Twitter, I guess, but I don't really do that much anymore. So you could find me wherever fine podcasts are found, at Rollmongers. That's really the only content I create that you would be interested in hearing about.
Wait.
What?
Hold on. I just said roll. Sorry, hold on.
Is this April? This is not April 1st, dear?
No, I've been editing our old episodes, so pardon me for that slip of the tongue.
Oh,
don't go to Rollmongers. Screw those guys.
Go to Clinton's Core Classics, Rise of the Rune Lords. You could find it anywhere that fine podcasts are found. You could even now listen to our original episodes because they don't suck so goddamn much.
Yeah, they're getting better. They're getting better a little bit each day. And what games have you played?
Well, I've been busy editing audio, and I've been busy creating painting stuff. So I've been looking at my video game playing for the last week or so. I've gotten about 2 hours in of Mega Man and 2 hours in of Shenmue 2. And I've been doing the math. That's like 20 to 40 minutes of each game each night. That's about right. Man, I wish I had more time to play video games, but boy, do I really appreciate those 20 to 40 minutes each night I could play in bed. And get a Steam Deck if you don't already have a Steam Deck. It's such a great console for just that.
I don't. I mean, I'll cover that in a minute, but like, I like being able to work from home as much as I do because it gives me more time to honestly slack off and play video games during work. It's pretty great.
Don't let your employer know that.
My boss knows.
They know.
He
They
knows.
understand.
My manager is really cool. Like, to the point, I think I might have mentioned it on the podcast before, but there was a time last year where I had a couple days off and I was going to lose them. And my boss was like, do you want to take Thursday and Friday off? Because you have to take 2 days off. You have to take these 2 days off. And I was like, I was thinking about that, but I know somebody else is taking that day off and I didn't want to like, have help desk be empty or whatnot. And he's like, I'm the manager. That's my problem. And I was like, what? That is not what most managers say. Most of the time you're like, I need to take this day off. And they're like, find somebody to cover for you.
That's cool that you have a cool boss. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you didn't get to play much, unfortunately. Hopefully that changes.
I do have a little quick of a story too. Just a handful
Oh.
of Battlefield again. If you have a computer with ray tracing, I think this is one of the better examples of games that utilize it well. But that's not what I want to talk about. You guys know that silly Spaceman game that I play, Space Station 13?
No Man's Sky, yeah.
Yes, No Man's Sky.
No.
No Man's Skyrim.
No, it's Space Station 13, the chipped challenge of space games.
Came out in like 2004, and I'm still in love with it, as are thousands of people. We're in the middle of what's called a gray tide, and I've probably talked about this on this podcast before. That's when there's a whole bunch of new people. Call it a gray tide because when you're a new person, like just a staff assistant, your uniform is gray. I don't really mind it so much. Like, there's a lot of people who grief and don't really understand that you're trying to like accomplish objectives and not just sabotage other people because, haha, it's funny. But every once in a while, I find somebody who's like, they'll ask me in a way that's not complete jerkery, or they'll seem like they'll be doing something, and I'll see they're doing something obviously wrong. So, long story short, I was teaching somebody how to make sarin, Serena toxin.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, hey, here's my comm. Go ahead and message me. Feel free if you have any questions. Make sure you do it safe. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. One thing I didn't mention to him is make sure you wear a hazmat suit when you do that because it's dangerous.
You're making toxin.
Right. And, some things maybe you don't necessarily think you have to say. But I did notice for a while I wasn't getting any more messages from the guy. And I went to go and check on him, and lo and behold, there was a body laying on there. And I was like, uh-oh, someone forgot their suit.
So you inadvertently got someone killed.
In a silly spaceman video game, yes.
Yes. Well, that's fun. I'm happy for you.
It was an enjoyable, funny story. I got a sensible chuckle out of it.
Good. I am going to move on to myself now. And you can find me on Twitter, I guess, at Reeton, or you can go to Twitch. I'm there Monday through Friday. I probably won't be there this Tuesday. I got my stereo replaced in my car today, and I think my friend blew a fuse or something. So he's like, okay, bring it by the shop. I'll fix it for you, but I need better tools. And I was like, okay. So Tuesday I probably won't be there, but Monday through Friday, typically 6 p.m. Pacific time to 9 p.m. Pacific time, I am playing games. Last week I played on Monday Redfall with Durga and Sarah, and it's playing it with friends. It is janky, but it's not terrible. It is definitely like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, which is about the scores that it was given. It's if I were playing it with casuals, like just randomly picking up people to play with, I wouldn't like it as much. And if I were playing it by myself, I would definitely just drop it and not play it at all, because it is a cooperative shooter. It's fine. It's all right. I don't know. It was included with Game Pass, so I can't complain too much. The Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday I can complain about because I paid a lot of money for this. And it's Star Wars Jedi Survivor. And while the game is it's a great game that has lots of optimization issues where it will start running fine. It'll run fine for a while. Like I changed the settings and made them all good. And then I'm like, oh, it's running at like 60 frames a second. And then you move into a new area and I'm like, why is it like going down to like 40s? And it's because it's got to like recache the shaders. And that takes a second. So you'll notice like hitches down to like 30 or 40 frames a second. And you're like, that's not cool. Stop it. But it does it every time. So you start up the game and it says, hey, we're optimizing the game to work on your system, where it caches the shaders, and then it doesn't cache them all. It only caches some of the shaders. So
I assume it's an issue whether you're on a high setting or low setting graphics, because it's not necessarily about the quality that it has to load. It's just the fact that it needs to pop out and in assets dynamically.
yeah, I don't know. It's, when Dead Island did the same thing and it ran pretty flawlessly. Like you would start it up and it would say, hey, we have like 11,000 or 12,000 shaders we're putting in, and it would take a minute to, cache the shaders, but then everything worked great. And so I don't know if that's what's happening or what, but it's fairly not greatly optimized. And it's not just me that's having the issue. People with 4090s are having issues like that. So that being said, it's still an incredibly fun game. I'm enjoying it. Using force powers and pushing people off bridges will never be not fun. Just like walking up to an enemy and they're like, get him! And then they all just like fall off the edge of the level is great. I love it.
Every time I see that cute ginger guy in the trailers, I remember how I need to finish Gotham.
I don't. The TV
The show?
show?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know who you're talking about because I haven't
The
watched
lead
Gotham.
dude from Star Wars. He plays a character who I think is pretty widely accepted among the fandom is supposed to be Joker.
Oh, okay. Jermaine or whatever his name is. I've seen some videos on it. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, how does this... but that makes sense.
Sorry.
So
It was just a random thought that popped into my head, and I thought
So-
it would be funnier than it actually turned out to be. I'm
so
sorry.
now, well, that's my question. Is Cal Kestis played by that guy? Or is
Yes.
it just... Okay. So that
yeah,
makes
that's the same
sense.
actor.
Okay, that makes sense. Oh, you also did it with the wrong audience because Connor and I never watched that show. So we're like, what?
I'm neither a DC nor a Star Wars fan. You are totally barking to the wrong choir.
But yeah,
And
that
also,
makes
I
sense.
doubt that either one of you would be like, "Oh, that cute ginger guy," like I just said.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I do like gingers, but typically I like cute ginger girls. Anywho.
Those are nice too.
Yeah, exactly. Anywho, the third game I played, well, actually, while I'm at work, I play games sometimes when the queue is empty, and I will play. I've been playing Game Dev Tycoon.
Oh, right on.
And
Oldie but a Goldie.
That's
yeah,
fun.
I pretty much beat it. I'm to the point where like every game I release is like an 8 or a 9, or all 10s, and then I have like $300 or $400 million, and I got to
You made the best lemonade.
yeah, I got to level 35 or year 35, and they're like, the game's over. You can keep doing stuff, but
Donkey's video about
it's over.
about Game Dev Tycoon is amazing.
Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? I'm having fun with this. And those types of games are really good for when you're working from home because you can just pause them. And it's not super intensive. So you can like even start a task and like turn around and start, doing a ticket or something. And so I was like, what's a good game that's similar to this? And I bought Software Inc. And so on Friday I played that. And I struggled a little bit with it. I did some contracts, made some money, and then they're like, okay, you can make your own software or hardware if you want. And I was like, well, let me try software. And I figured out, so while making the software, you can either choose to do everything yourself or you can hire like publishing companies. or whatever. You can hire a publisher, you can hire marketing, stuff like that. But they take a percentage of the profit. And I was like, nah, I'm going to do everything myself. That shouldn't be that hard. By the way, that is that hard. And I think I sold 3 copies of my first antivirus program. When it released, because the marketing wasn't great, they're like, hey, this product is good and it's pretty bug free, but we don't know who the fuck they are because they didn't have any marketing. And so I was like, oh man, I went from like, $70-something thousand to less than $20,000. So I did a few more contracts. Did quite a few more contracts, got up to about $100,000. And was like, okay, my company's not, in the red anymore. Let me try that again. But this time, like, we'll make a sequel to that product and we will actually go and see what we can do when we hire a marketing team and a publisher. That'll just distribute everything for us, which takes about 20% of your profit away, or a little bit more than that. Yeah, and it released, and people actually bought it, and we made like $400,000 overnight. And I was like, oh, that's how it works. Good. And then I was like, okay, so what can I do now? And I was looking at it, and I was like, oh, what's this manufacturing button? And they're like, okay, so in order to do manufacturing, you got to set up a manufacturing plant. So you need conveyor belts. And I was like, nope, not doing that right now. Sounds like a game Connor would really like.
I don't know, man. I'm a big fan of those cookies and clicking on them. It doesn't sound much different. It sounds like it just has a couple extra steps.
Yeah, you have to like actually set up a printing press and all that to like be able to print copies of the discs that you're going to be sending out, and like you have to have conveyor belts and all that jazz. And I'm just like, okay, that seems.
Do you remember that? Sorry to interrupt you. Do you remember
No.
that? I think it was called Accounting Plus. It's a VR game that it's like one of the go-to demo games people try out. It
I have
sounds
heard
like
of it.
that, but with less of a focus on mini games and more of an incentive of big number go up fast.
Yeah, pretty much big number go up, and like, you'll like, there's steps to it. So like, say you're doing the antivirus software, you choose what features have in there, what to have in there, but also, you hire people to help work on it. You can have your guy work on it, whatever. But you have the features, and then you go through like the planning phases. And the more iterations that you make of the planning phase, it will lower the amount of time that it takes to like do bug fixing or the actually building the product. Because if you only have like one version of it, bugs are going to creep up, or the complexity is going to be in there. So you go through that phase, then you go through the building phase, and then after that you go through the bug fixing phase. And all of that takes time, where if you're publishing it yourself, it doesn't really matter. You can kind of set a date, but it doesn't matter because you're the one publishing it. But if you choose to have a publisher, they're like, it needs to be done by July of next year. And so you don't have the time. You might not have the time to do all the iterations, so you have to spend more time in the end bug fixing.
So in computer science, and you may or may not know some of these terms I'm about to techno-babble your way, there are certain schemas we follow, especially in the development side of things, that are like, to make sure that we're on focus and developing, consistently, we're going to follow the waterfall pattern or the agile pattern. That's probably things you hear in business meetings that
Agile,
don't
I've heard a lot.
And, it's probably not things that necessarily apply to your meeting, but like to business managers and developers, that's their livelihood right there. And
Yeah.
I wonder how well that game handles you implementing different changes like that. Because I guarantee you the developers know about that. And it sounds like you're like what you're describing right there. It sounds like the gameplay would be following those different patterns on your own.
They even have, like, you're running a business in that game. And I'll probably play it again sometime on stream. But so that you're running a business, you can hire employees. And like the game's even like, hey, you can hire employees. Like if you hire them fresh out of college, you don't have to pay them that much, but they will they're not going to be as good of a programmer as somebody who's like a senior programmer, but you
Hey,
can hire
kid,
them. You
Have
can
you
hi-
considered outsourcing your labor to India?
Yeah. You can hire them for cheaper. And then also that makes it, if you hire them directly out of college and you give them their first shot, then they're going to be more loyal to you and not leave the company at some point, or be less likely to leave the company for a better job because you're the one who gave them their foot in their door. There's also benefits. And in the benefit tutorial, it says, so you can set benefits like vacation, like all sorts of stuff, but like vacation and stock and free food, catering, stuff like that. And if you do these, that means you can use these benefits to potentially argue lower salaries. And I was like, oh, I'm the asshole. That's what
I love it when
would
a
be.
game lets you be the bad guy.
Yeah. And just so you know, I've heard that. Before we move on, I used to work with somebody that worked at Pixar, and he's like, yeah, they have like full catering and stuff at Pixar, like 5-star chefs and stuff that are working there, and they're great, but Pixar actually pays like 20% less than the industry average. And they're like, oh, but we offer you all these benefits. And my friend's like, yeah, that's great. I would like more money because you're making me live in or like in the Bay Area in California, and all the houses here are over $1 million. So, yeah, that you can be the jerk in Software Inc. You can be the one that's like, hey, we give you 2 weeks or 3 weeks paid vacation. So we're going to cut your salary by a little bit. And that would be awful to be that person. But
I'm sure they all love it. I'm sure there's no issues that happen
no
from
issues.
dramatically changing people's livelihoods for the sake of profit.
Nope, never had a problem with that in America. We're going to move on and we're going to talk about some news stories now. And
Oh, hey, can I jump in for just a second to
no,
put in a plug for episode 318?
is that the Aroa?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
It's very funny. I agree. I enjoy that episode quite a
I
bit.
have to talk about this because
That
this
was-
past week. Go ahead.
I was going to say that episode was recorded when I met Nick Lotus in real life.
Holy crap.
I
That's
thought
when
we
you
were
were
on
in
our right
Vegas?
That was when I
Oh
was
my
in
god,
Vegas,
that makes it even more special.
Yeah. So that
oh my
was
god.
yeah, when we hung out, I think, did we hang out on Sunday or was it Saturday?
I can't remember
something
if it was
like
a
that.
Saturday or Sunday.
But yeah, that was when they
But yeah,
were
we met
doing
up
that,
for lunch.
and
Yeah.
and he messed up and didn't record Connor's voice.
Yes. And oh my god. Okay, but oh my god, my mind is blown. I didn't realize that was the timeline, and that just like cements it in my heart as literally my favorite Reeton episode ever. I'm sorry that you were not in it.
That's okay. That's what most people say. That was my favorite episode, but that's the one I wasn't in. Uh-huh.
But anyway, cutting to the chase. Episode 318 of the Reeton Entertainment Podcast is it's when Nathan's away, and Aroa and Connor did the podcast, but Aroa did not record. There was some glitch with the recording or issue, and Connor didn't get recorded, and so Aroa like redubbed all of Connor's lines.
Yep.
And it's the most hysterical thing ever because like about half the time he makes Connor sound like comic book guy from The Simpsons.
No,
And
that's
then-
just how I sound.
Yeah.
No, oh no, honey.
Well, excuse me. Actually, I sound a little bit like this.
But then about like 2-3% of the time, like once in a while, Aroa will say something as Connor, and it is dead on, and it's a little weird and creepy. But I'm here for it. I love it. It's a literal riot and a half.
Yeah, it was good. That's my favorite episode too. It was just I remember listening to it and I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right.
And now that I think about it, it's like, and now that you told me, it's like, oh, My favorite episode of Nathan's podcast was being recorded around the same time that I actually met Nathan for the first time in real life, and
Mm-hmm.
that's I don't know. I don't know if my mom emotions on Mother's Day can handle that.
Yeah, all those mom emotions that happen when you're pregnant. Like
Well, good.
I'm sure something changes in you while you're pregnant that's like
Well, I mean, when you create an entire ass human being with your own
Mhm.
body, yeah, that's a whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's terrifying. We're
Like
gonna
bonding hormones and stuff. Gross.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna move on and we're gonna talk about some news stories. Aroa, obviously, as you can tell, if you're listening, wasn't able to make the podcast today, but he has thoughts, so we will cover those thoughts when we get to those stories.
And
The
Nathan's
first
gonna do a Rose most this time.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
Um,
please.
I can't do voices. So
I'm telling you, just like bad '90s cartoon Wolverine impression. That's all you got to do.
No, I haven't seen that show in like 10 years. I may have watched it like 10 years ago. But we're going to move on. Secure Boot in Windows. Well, it's used for Windows, but Secure Boot is something that's used in BIOSes, and Nick Lotus won't do this, but Connor, when you set up a computer at work, do you ever have to disable Secure Boot?
We actually, we like one of the first things I did before the pandemic breakout is I was responsible for like the Windows 10 upgrades on computers. And one day, we got back from a deployment to find out that the morning that the staff came in and started turning them on, none of them were working. And we're like, huh, what the hell? Turns out they had updated overnight, and because Secure Boot was off, it was like, hey, this no longer meets our TPM requirements, and we're not going to boot to Windows. So we had to go back and turn it all on so it would boot.
Oh, not Windows 11.
No, this was on Windows 10. This is like 2018, early 2019, probably.
Weird, because we do our imaging system is awful. But we use Clonezilla. We use a third-party tool to do cloning, and so we'll use that. And in order for it to boot into Clonezilla, it will it'll require Secure Boot to be turned off. And then we can go back in if we want to and turn Secure Boot back on, but we like never do because it doesn't matter 90% of the time, unless apparently something happens with your specific situation where it breaks the install. But we've never had that problem.
It wasn't so much that the install was broken, it's that they updated something, and TPM was like, that's not the same machine it was a second ago. Fuck you, I'm not booting.
Oh, that makes sense. So, apparently there is a Secure Boot issue, and it says Microsoft will take a year to finish patching it. This one was brought to us by Aroa, I think. And
Yes.
so he said, first off, I forgot today's Mother's Day. And then I forgot to tell you that I'm not going to be there because of Mother's Day. So he said on the Windows thing, on the one hand, it's not going to really matter since everyone just puts an ISO on a flash drive to reinstall Windows. But it's another instance of Microsoft pushing features onto OEMs with Secure Boot that ends up causing problems for everyone else. And here's a problem. Nobody else uses Secure Boot.
It's just, I was actually going to bring up that exact point. I can't think of anything but Microsoft that uses, or requires Secure Boot, that is.
Yeah, exactly. This is apparently something called Black Lotus Bootkit that was discovered in March. The original vulnerability is a long thing that I'm not going to say. Was patched in January, but the new patch for blank, the new one, addresses another actively exploited workaround for systems running Windows 10 and 11 and Windows Server versions going back to Windows Server 2008. The Black Lotus Toolkit is the first known real-world malware that can bypass Secure Boot protections, allowing for the execution of malicious code before your PC begins loading into Windows, and its many security protections. Secure Boot has been enabled by default for over a decade on Windows PCs, sold by companies like Dell, Lenovo, HP, Acer, and others. PCs running Windows 11 must have it enabled to meet the software's system requirements. So with Secure Boot off, technically your computer is more vulnerable. But now it doesn't matter because even with Secure Boot on, they can bypass that and execute code before you're even loaded into Windows, which is pretty amazing.
The interesting about I don't know a lot about how much of a cache your BIOS has before it boots into an operating system. So having a malicious payload that could fit into that small of a cache, like, yes, it sucks that you're doing that, but it's also kind of like impressive.
Yeah, you don't have much. The BIOS, I'm gonna look it up, so you're gonna have some keyboard typing. But BIOS size,
I'm guessing it's gonna be like kilo to megabytes. It can't be that like
megabytes.
It's gotta hold it when it flashes an update, but it's other than that, what does it really even use?
I knew it was really small. It's about 32 megabytes.
That's actually bigger than I was expecting.
Yeah, me too. But that's 32 megabytes. That's still not a lot of space. But
Not for something that could corrupt your entire operating system. You got to think that's a lot of work that little bit of space has to do.
Exactly, and that's actually a problem that they have with like AMD motherboards. We have the AM. We're on AM5 now, but the AM4 platform, you could theoretically on one motherboard just update and support all the way from Ryzen, the first gen Ryzen, all the way up to Ryzen 5000 series, the 5000 series. But what would happen is that this 32 megabytes would fill up, and so they would actually delete compatibility for older Ryzen models. So what you could do is, let's say you have a Ryzen like 1700 and you want to update to like a Ryzen 5700. You would have your original 1700 in there, update the BIOS, that chip would no longer be supported, and then you'd swap in the new chip that is now supported by the BIOS. Because 32 megs is not a lot to work with. Pretty much everything you download now is going to be 32 megs. I have pictures that are bigger than 32 megs.
You're following all of this, right, Nicole? Good.
Maybe.
But yeah,
this is why I remain muted when I don't have anything clever to say.
So, what this can do, like basically, do all the things you normally do. Most likely, even though yes, this could be an issue, most likely anybody listening to this isn't going to get this bootkit. You're still gonna have to download something, install it, and then reboot your computer to have it actually activate. I'm not sure how all that works. I really don't know how all that works. But I don't think that this is going to be much of a problem. That being said, they're going to take a year to fix this. That's not cool. Normal, isn't it 90 days? Doesn't
it kind of depends on the nature of the issue.
That's
the
true.
people who I feel bad for are the people who are on LTSCs, and it's rough when you find an issue that's this compromising, because even if you are taking steps to be edge secure, it's like, well, nobody caught it. Now we have an entire framework built on top of it. Sorry that one brick was out of place. Your whole thing's unsound now.
Yeah. That's awful. Hopefully Microsoft will fix that. I know that I think Apple has a slightly longer window where they can fix bugs. Microsoft is usually like 90 days, I think. But taking a whole year to fix kind of a big issue where people can hack your system even before you boot into Windows is pretty crappy. But we're gonna move on and we're gonna talk about Diablo. Let's talk about some video games.
Just as a quick disclaimer, in case anyone is listening is confused. I'm not responsible for internet security at my organization.
That's good.
I am an on-air personality and reporter. The engineer here is amazing, so I'm not concerned.
Yeah,
although maybe I should be.
That's a big thing too. It's like, I remember working my first IT job, how many people called me, and there was that FBI virus, the ransomware that was going around, where it would say, "Hey, we found this, illegal stuff on your computer, or illegal images on your computer. We're from the FBI, but if you pay us 200 or 300 or 400, whatever the amount of money was, if you pay us this amount of money, we'll give you a code and you can bypass this. Just never, look up those pictures again," or something like that. And people would pay it because they're like, "Oh no, the FBI."
Obvious
And
scam is
it's
obvious.
obvious scam, but people just, that's the type of thing that this bootkit will probably do. It'll probably, if somebody makes a bootkit out of it, it's going to be ransomware, something like that. And they'll probably make it self-replicating. So if it gets on a server or it gets on a computer connected to a server, it will then just like try to spread out through the entire organization. And you'll potentially have all of your servers and computers locked, which would be awful.
Yeah.
There were always the people who call you and they're like, "Hey, this is Dell, and we're noticing that your computer has malware." And I remember a call specifically where the lady was like, I paid, they wanted $300 or $200, and I was like, "Did you give them the money?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Great, I'll fix this. I get $9."
I've seen an email scam that has gone across 2 different organizations for me, where someone will send an email posing as like the boss, the CEO, whatever, and asking someone to go out and buy gift cards for them.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that happen as well. Somebody texted me with that, and I was like, this seems fishy. And then there was another story that I heard where there was a company that's kind of gone downhill, and the accountant would, like, the CEO messaged the accountant, was like, "Hey, wire me $25,000." And the accountant's like, "All right, whatever." And they caught him, and
Okay, as an accountant, how are you just like whatever over that much money?
Yeah. And the it is either that or CEO or whatever. So the accountant wired the money and then got caught, and they were investigating it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this happens all the time." And so he showed records where it does happen all the time, that this scammer just kept, every couple of months being like, "Hey, wire me this much money." And so it happened for like a year. So there was like hundreds of thousands of dollars that had been wired to this person in wherever. So
Holy scooters.
yeah, whenever you see something suspicious like that, you should probably question it. But we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about Diablo. This is one I think Nick Lotus brought up. Blizzard really does want you to make
up on Polygon. I don't know anything about Diablo, but I thought you guys would have some stuff to say about it.
So apparently they want you to make a new Diablo 4 character every 3 months.
That's a pretty fast ladder.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to be doing seasons in Diablo 4. And those seasons are going to last about, quarterly or 3 months. With the first coming mid to late July. Again, this is from Polygon. Matter of weeks after the game's launch on June 22nd, you'll need to complete a game's campaign on one character before you can access it. The season will introduce fresh quest lines separate from the campaign narrative, as well as new gameplay features that will change the experience of leveling and developing your new character, all of which will be exclusive to the season and will be retired at the end of 3 months. Your seasonal character, however, will be moved to the Eternal Realm at the end of the season, where it will remain playable. Each season will also bring standard patch content like balance changes and quality of life improvements. So this seems, I don't know if I hate it. It seems fine, because you can, like, it's not saying you have to like delete your old character. It's also not saying that you need to not be able to play the base game. This is for like additional content in
So
these seasons.
it's more encouraging you to create alts as opposed to starting all over.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. The ladder system is very familiar with Blizzard. That allows people to like try new builds as they continuously do the ever impossible task of balancing the game. So usually what they'll do is like, oh, everyone's too strong of a necromancer this build. Next ring on the ladder, we'll nerf them and we'll make a build that's not so focused on, whatever it is that was being broken. And usually
Yeah.
they fix one by breaking another, and that's the circle of people chasing the meta.
Yeah.
They kind of already know what they're getting into if that's the particular carrot on a stick they're trying to catch.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, I haven't touched a Blizzard game since, gosh, I mean, back when the level cap was 70. I don't know how long ago that was.
Yeah.
On WoW.
That was
That's the last time I
Burning
touched.
Crusade.
Yeah,
I
Burning
know.
Crusade was the last time that I touched a Blizzard game when I was playing WoW, and I had a level 70 Warlock. And
That was the last time I was serious about any Blizzard product as well. And
Yeah.
it's all been downhill from there.
So, but this looks like it is encouraging you to create alts, because for the new like additional content that they're adding, you start a new character for that specific content.
Yes. And
So,
that's usually what it is. Every new ladder you make, everyone starts with a new level 1 character.
oh, okay. So it's fine. I don't have a problem with this. I honestly don't know much about Diablo either. I thought the first game you killed Satan, you killed Diablo, and then they kept going for some reason, and I was confused.
Well, actually, in Diablo 3, the character of Lilith was introduced, and it turns out that Lilith was the one who created all of Sanctuary, which is the realm where humans actually exist.
I see.
So-
okay, so
technically,
this is like
she's just-
Impressionception right now. You
I'm
as a Roa,
impressing
it's
my-
you.
That's as much as I know of the story. I'm not gonna play Diablo 4. They
Me
lost
neither.
me as a customer.
Yeah, so good luck people who play Diablo. I think Durga's getting it.
I
I
have
hate.
a weird
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
I have a weird suspicion that they are going to try some sort of cash shop again. Probably not going to be as silly as it was before, where it's like, you could make real money on our marketplace. It's probably going to be more like, hey, go to your mom's credit card, get $9.99. You can buy some charms; those will help you.
No.
And-
No. They say it here. The premium battle pass has 63 more tiers, which will reward you with cosmetics unique to the season and platinum currency that can be spent at the game's shop. So they're gonna have not only that, it's gonna be each season will have their own special stuff. The accelerated pass is the same, but allows you to skip forward 20 tiers and comes with a special cosmetic. The premium and accelerated passes will cost the platinum equivalent of $10 to $25.
Ugh.
Yeah. So that's not fun.
Every 3 months, another 25 to. I'm gonna say it's probably gonna be more than that too. What they
Yeah.
tend to do is they make it so if you buy points, it's never enough to finish a purchase unless you buy even more points.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna call it the League of Legends effect. There's probably a better name for it. Like no matter what you purchase, you always have a couple of lingering points.
Mm-hmm. It's I don't like it. I just wish, like, honestly, from what I recall, Nintendo's pretty good about it, where they're just like, yeah, you just add your credit card and pay $70 or whatever. Like,
Their mobile games are notoriously bad for that, but
oh, are they?
I also wouldn't recommend playing Nintendo. They're just
Yeah.
slot machines.
They're almost all things with cash shops with their own like currency will do that, where it'll be like you spend $10 and you get 1,200 points, but the thing you want is either 1,500 points, so you need to buy more, or is only 1,000 points, so that way you have 200 points left over, which you can't buy anything with, so you have to buy more points, so
Mhm.
that way you buy something else.
Exactly what
That's
I'm saying.
Awful.
Grinds my gears.
Me too. But you know what else grinds my gears? Intentionally getting into wrecks.
Uh-huh.
I've never done that. When I was hit by
Only
a semi, it was on
accidentally.
accident. So who is this? Somebody posted this, but Trevor Jacob. Is that the person who did the? Yeah. It says Trevor Jacob faces up to 20 years in prison for an intentional plane crash and dismembering and hiding the aircraft's wreckage. The end of that? Okay, first off, this is from Gizmodo. But I was reading through that sentence and it's like the plane crash and dismembering. I'm like, what the fuck did he
It's
dismember?
just getting worse and worse and worse. Oh, thank God.
Oh, thank God, it's just the plane. But he's facing up to 20 years in prison. It says a YouTube pilot has pleaded guilty to intentionally crashing an airplane and intent to obstruct a federal investigation. Trevor Daniel Jacob, 29 of Nicolotis, Lompoc, California.
Oh, I'm not sure, honestly.
You're the
I'm
one
sure.
who's supposed to be able to say things.
I don't. I don't live.
It's
I've never lived in
Lampec.
California.
Lampec,
Let's
California.
see.
Lompoc, California, I think it
Hold
is.
on a
I used to
second.
live there too.
Well, yeah, I'm guessing it's Lombok. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I've never lived in California. I didn't make it that far on my westward journey.
While the plane crashed somewhere near the Los Padres National Forest. Jacob installed numerous cameras to the plane before takeoff. Yes, because that's if you're going to intentionally crash a plane, you know what you want to do? You want to have it
Record
on
it.
multiple camera angles.
The insurance company will love you for it.
Yeah, they will. Jacob installed numerous cameras on the plane before takeoff, according to a DOJ press release, and had equipped himself with a parachute and selfie stick, all of which captured Jacob ejecting himself from the plane and parachuting to the ground. Oh no, he uploaded the 12-minute video to YouTube, which has 3.1 million views at the time of writing. Not worth 20 years in prison, tell you that. The video shows him taking off before claiming the plane was malfunctioning 35 minutes later when he parachutes out of the plane, and the video shows it crashing to the side of a mountain. Jacob records himself hiking through the park and complaining of exhaustion before he's picked up by some local farmers. Jacob reported the incident 3 days later and told the Federal Aviation... Okay, first off, do that immediately. You crashed a
why the
fucking
delay?
plane.
You can't do that, dude.
Yeah.
You can't just do that.
The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, that he did not know where the airplane crashed, but he had it on camera. But according to the press release, the United States Department of Transportation had opened its own investigation and found that he and a friend returned to the wreckage site on December 10th. Ooh, the two reportedly flew by helicopter to the scene of the crash, where they secured and carried the wreckage to Rancho Sissaquah in Santa Barbara County and loaded it into Jacob's vehicle. Okay, so that is the part that is a big problem. They then disposed of it, and then he also confirmed that he had hoped to make money through YouTube. It later said in the press release that he further admitted that he lied to federal investigators when he submitted an aircraft accident incident report that falsely indicated that they had experienced a full loss of power approximately 35 minutes after takeoff. So I'm thinking he's definitely going to prison. Definitely going to prison. I don't think he's going to go there for 20 years. Since he admitted it, I'm assuming he's going to plead guilty, and he's either going to go to, I don't think he's going to go to court. He's probably going to go to plea deal. That's going to be for a couple years.
Yeah, he's gonna get slapped on the wrist for lying during an investigation.
Yep.
And the FAA might try to make an example of him.
No.
But yeah, you can't just crash your plane, dude.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is why he would do this, because
Content.
Money.
But it's so it would be so easy to fake that without actually crashing a plane and committing insurance fraud and whatever else.
Mm-hmm. Now, well, yeah, I don't know. Aroa says on the YouTuber, that's pretty self-evident. Everyone is trying to be the new Mr. Beast and waste thousands of dollars on something over the top and remarkably irresponsible. I don't watch Mr. Beast. I know nothing about Mr. Beast.
At least Mr. Beast sometimes gives people money.
Yeah, there's a thing like he went and paid a lot of money. Like, good on him for doing it, where he paid a lot of money to have a bunch of people's cataracts removed, basically. I think that's what he did. It's a procedure that takes 5 minutes. But it makes it so people are able to see. Because if you have cataracts, you can't see. You have cloudy vision all the time. And so he's like, yeah, we cured people of blindness because they were technically blind, and we remove their cataracts and they're not blind anymore. And so there's something to be said about that. Like, hey, good for you. You're using your money responsibly and helping people out. But there's also something to be said about, like, we should just do that. If it takes less than 5 minutes to do this surgery, why does it cost so much money that people aren't able to get this surgery? Why does it either cost so much, or why aren't we just already covering that? And why doesn't insurance cover that all the time? Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
And that's something that Nickelodeon is like, nope, can't talk about. Nope, can't do it. So we're going to move on. But yes, this YouTuber definitely just wanted the views. He got them. He got 3.1 million views on the video. But as I said, not worth 20 years in prison, or 1 year in prison, or honestly a day in prison, especially when you're 5'6" and 145 pounds. I don't want to spend a second in prison. I would.
Hey guys, this is Trevor Jacob coming at you from minimum security prison. Today we are going to make Bruno.
And this is my daddy right here. That'd be awful. So, don't watch Trevor Jacob. He seems like a douchebag. Moving on. Another thing that's a douchebag, Toyota. Oh man, I have a Prius. I like my Prius. It's really good. But Toyota as a company has been pissing me off lately in general. Again, this is from, did Aroa post this again? Yes.
Yes.
Basically, this is, I had to get a different link because that link that he posted wasn't working, I think. The one that he originally posted.
He really blew it.
He really blew it. It was from Bleeping Computers. I don't know if you click on it. Can you tell me if it loads correctly for you? Because it was not loading for me.
Yes, it did load for me.
Interesting. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I got it from another one called Giz China. So, they're trustworthy. Toyota announced a cybersecurity issue which involves its subsidiary Toyota Connected. In error, the company mistakenly published the personal information of about 2.15 million users online. The Toyota said the statement that the breach of user data was caused by a setup error in the cloud service. The leaked content includes vehicle serial numbers and location data. Toyota responds that the data was used for internal admin purposes and would not be traced to the user. So they've leaked a bunch of data about your car to people. From the report so far, the data breach covers Toyota T, Connect G, Link Lite, and G-Link from 2012 to 2023. This includes about 2.15 million users of the Book Telemax service. Also affected is dashcam footage uploaded to the cloud. Oh, that's not good. Using an enterprise service provider by Toyota Connect. One weird part of the data leak was that it was available online for years. The report from Reuters claims that the data was available to public from November of 2016 to April 2023. Toyota has already taken action, as the company says that all data is no longer online. Also, the company reveals that there's no evidence any data was used illegally. There's a huge consequence for such data leaks. Nobody wants their personal data to be public, especially if it's like dashcam footage. Like, what were you doing? Like, some of the dash cams, they'll watch, like, out of the vehicle, but I've seen one that also look at the interior of the vehicle as well. So, like, you can kind of see if the driver was fucking off when that crash happened.
It just reminds me, and I know that's the intent is, we could use it for insurance and liability, but like,
yeah,
Think back to what was it, 2 weeks ago? Maybe it was last week when we were talking about how people at Tesla were just sharing that shit in the office.
That was like 3 weeks ago, I think. And yeah, like Tesla, they were like watching people have sex in their car. And it's like, what? And they don't, the shitty thing is these companies don't suffer like anything, right? Like
Yeah.
if we went and we stole this much data and leaked it online, we'd go to prison.
Yeah, the dude who crashed their plane into the side of the mountain for clout is going to see more criminal justice than anyone related to this is going to see.
Yeah. And then Aroa says the Toyota thing is even more evidence of why we don't need cars with built-in smart features, especially ones like GPS and cellular capabilities. You would have needed to know the VIN of a car to stalk someone, but that's not even close to impossible to get. Car companies need to learn and stay in their lane, pun intended. Now, here's the thing. I think when Toyota says that none of the data was accessed by somebody else, they're probably correct. They
Or
probably,
they're like, "Oh, don't worry, we investigated ourselves. We're fine."
yeah, but what is it, like security through obscurity? Because it, like, yeah, this vulnerability might have been there. Like somebody might have been able to access all this stuff, but if you don't know where you're fucking going online to access this stuff, then it, like, if nobody knows where, like, that you can do it, unless somebody's just like, oh, I wonder if you can do this. Like, I don't see it as that much of a, I guess it's a security hole. Yes, it's bad. I don't like that. But I do agree that they probably didn't have anybody access this data because nobody knew where to find it until now. And they took it offline. And this Toyota also did another thing, and I mentioned it, and I'm going to complain about it again, is that some of the newer Priuses have you can get remote start. They have remote start built in, which is great, right? You know, it's cold, you heat up your car or whatever, start up your vehicle, and then you drive. But apparently, that was only good for 3 years. And then after the 3 years, you have to pay a monthly subscription fee to start up your car remotely. Awful. 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 Terrible. Hate it.
Why wouldn't you just? I'm sure that the answer is because they make it so you can't. But like, at that point, just replace the fob.
Yeah.
That is a part that could be removed and hotwired.
Yeah. And another good thing is that my Prius is not a 2013 or newer one that runs off this book telematics service. So I don't have to worry about it. You know how my computer, or until today, because I just installed Android Auto in my car, but it runs off of a DVD. That's how you get the maps for my Prius, and I think they
Yeah.
upgraded it. Now all the cars have like Android Auto or some sort of Apple CarPlay or like some sort of Android based navigation that's built into the car.
Now my car runs on Linux.
Yeah, exactly. But we're going to move on and we're going to talk about one last story unless Nicole had anything to add. She is not there
No.
we go.
Sorry, I had to unmute. No, don't have anything to add there.
Okay.
You guys are the techies. I just talk pretty for a living.
Oh, good. That's more than we can do. We talk weekly, but not pretty. And
Mama always said I had a face for radio.
You talk smartly is the difference.
oh, I see. And we're going to move on and we're going to talk about something that specifically applies to only Connor.
Hey, I'm the one who suggested the story. I'm into it.
Oh, I thought it was oh, it was you. Okay.
No, it was totes me.
So what is this?
Okay.
Sorry, Nicole.
So no apologies, no worries. But basically, this is an article from Polygon, and the title of it is "The Future of Tabletop Roleplay is Hope." And it's an article about the idea of the kind of subgenre of tabletop role-playing games called hope punk. And it's kind of a contrast to the, doom and gloom I'm sorry, Connor, like cyberpunk type games
The
about
term you're
dystopia.
looking for is grimdark, and it is a genre.
Yes, it is, and it is mentioned in this article. In fact, I was remiss in not mentioning it. But in any case, it's kind of an article about some new kind of subgenre of TTRPGs coming out that are more positively angled and more optimistic. And instead of going grimdark as the genre and Connor say, it's more of an attempt to reconnect and look for the good, and it's pretty cool. Like an example that's brought up is a game that is called, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling to look for it.
Are you going to reference Arcology World?
No, actually.
It's one of the ones that are listed in the article. I recognize a lot of the games and the inspirations that they are mentioning in this Polygon article,
Yeah,
and
and go
I
ahead.
could definitely have a conversation about the the place of the tabletop game in the social community.
Yes.
A lot
Well,
of
I
the
mean,
games that they're mentioning are great examples for things that aren't just going to get people to go around and be like, right, what do we stab this week?
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I know this is gonna sound like so ridiculous because I'm so privileged to do the most amazing job in the world. But sometimes I get burnt out on doom and gloom covering the news every day. And, I don't particularly like really, really depressing or really messed up stuff for that reason, because reality is rough enough and I want an escape. And so I am behind this idea of a positive movement in role playing games.
Yeah, it mentions here that, and this is probably the only thing I can think of, other than like cheesy, like Care Bears and shit. But like like Star Trek, like there is conflict in Star Trek, but it's kind of like, at least with the Next Generation and the original series, it's not it's not a world or a universe that you're living in where everything's super bleak. Typically, like yes, there's conflicts, but like Earth is a utopia. Like everything's paid for. Replicators exist, teleporters. Like yes, there's still things that go wrong where you have in wars that you have, but it's not like everything's Blade Runner all the time, where it's just a
Frankly,
dystopian future.
yeah, yeah. I mean, frankly, I actually think about our current campaign in Shadowrun with Connor, because there's like the dystopian element, and it's very Fallouty and it's great, but it's not just constant bad.
No, and sci-fi is always not always. Sci-fi should always be used to talk about the present. When you're looking at the future, it's because things are grim and dark right now.
Yeah.
The point that, and I'm glad that you brought up Star Trek. That's a really good jumping point for me here. As far as like what kind of story you're gonna gather when you get your friends around a table and decide you're gonna play make believe for a couple hours together, can be impacted by the story and the setting. If you're playing a Star Trek, you're not gonna get so many of those man versus man stories. And sure, they can exist, but you're probably gonna see more cooperative sort of inclinations. You're gonna want to see people gathering unique skills and mindsets to solve a cooperative problem. Whereas other games I mentioned, like I'll pull out the Return to the Stars, which is a Fate style game. That is going to be one that probably focuses a little more on the character development and growth of the individual, as opposed to, say the department, to draw it back to Star Trek.
And that is the exact game I was looking for the name of. Thank you.
So Star Trek also, part of the reason you said that, you're more cooperative and stuff, and
By
you're
its
not
nature.
gonna. That was part of Gene Roddenberry's, and they stopped doing this because it was kind of dumb. Is that he didn't want any conflict between the people on the ship. So when he would, like, for part of the reason why the first season and a half of Star Trek The Next Generation sucked was because the writers would come to him with ideas and he would be like, no, zero conflict with the people on the ship.
Was this I'm assuming this was before the Kirk Uhura kiss.
No,
No, this is a 80s.
80s.
This is late 80s.
Yeah.
Because the Kirk Uhura kiss is a classic example of abuse of power.
Well, yes, but also I think they're like mind controlled. In
Oh,
that,
okay.
No.
I
yeah,
did not know that context, so
I thought
sorry.
there was a reason why they kissed that wasn't just they wanted to
Hon
make out on the ship.
Yeah, I honestly don't know much about that particular moment other than the historical significance of it.
They're
Yeah,
on like they're under an arena kind of situation, and they're trying to be like, "We will not be your entertainment." Blah blah blah.
yeah,
It's not the best writing. It's okay.
yeah. It
But
was.
there was a great Futurama episode based on it, apparently.
And that was that was a big deal. Um, that and she was just so
But
you
no,
know.
Connor, we cut you off. Please continue
Oh
what you were
yeah,
saying.
fate. You
I
said
mean, it
something about
wasn't
fate.
necessarily just about it's the core of my whole argument there is that finding a good group that you mesh with, the stories that you're interested in telling might not necessarily be like, hey, let's go find a dragon and take its gold, or and the Shadowrun example, let's go find a corporation and steal all their money or whatever. Like, some people will be interested in doing things that aren't so violent.
Like
And
someone is sick and tired of their ridiculous kept person life and they just want to be another person now.
You'll have to
that's
wait to listen to that.
yes, and that's just a lot of what we do when we communally tell stories of one another. Like, we're still doing the escapism that we do when we play video games, read books, or watch TV or whatever, but we're more responsible. We're more in control of what that story is. That's the appeal for a lot of people. And if you find something that's not telling the story that you want to tell because, oh, we need to facilitate it by killing dragons or whatever to satisfy the main gameplay loop, find a different game. That's what this Polygon article looks and what it's trying to say is, you could find games that aren't just slay the beast. One of the examples they give here is Roots and Flowers, which is a game about community and caring. It doesn't necessarily look like a game I would be rivetingly going out of my way to play, but I do like what they're trying to do. Like, they have simple rules for making characters. They have simple rules for what you bring to a game, and
Tabletop Stardew?
kind of, yeah. It's promoting a lot of like being a group, choosing the challenges that your group has, which reminds me of a game that I played with my friends called Apocalypse World, which I think they even mentioned in this article. That one is indeed a game that's a little bit about like defend yourself against nuclear threats, rad roaches and raiders and scavengers, find clean water and stuff like that. But it looks like they're using those same game principles, but instead of you need clean water, it's you need resource management. You have poor infrastructure, fix it up.
Yeah, it's that, and they list if you're interested in any of these, the links are down below. It's the Polygon article down there, and they have a list. They don't have a list, which I don't like, but they have a lot of different games that are mentioned here. They have one that's Hey There Be Monsters. They have one that's called Marvelous Mutations and Merry Musicians. And they just
An
keep
article. They want you to read it.
they want you to read the article, but I would like at the end of the article be like, here are all the games that we spoke about.
Just in case you didn't read the article.
Yeah, too long, didn't read. Here are the games you should play.
Here you go, Nathan.
Yeah, exactly. I read some of it, but I would like a list for our audience so that I could be like, here are all the things that they say in it.
Here are the 20 games they listed.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of games
Top
that
10
they're
anime
listed.
betrayals.
And these are more, they're more geared towards specific groups, like Hey There Be Monsters or Marvelous Mutations and Merry Musicians. So look through the article and see which ones appeal to you if you're interested in playing tabletop games. I do like that image that shows a guy playing a saxophone, and he's also an octopus.
I do enjoy that image.
It's
Like
pretty.
musical.
That's Marvelous Mutations and Merry Musicians.
Exactly.
A collaborative post-apocalyptic RPG.
Mm-hmm. So, that's it. I don't think we had anything else to talk about this week.
What's your favorite part of communal role playing games, Nathan? Is it the fact that I forced you to play in mine and continue to force you to play in mine?
I like
Can I
killing
continue
things.
to write Drek for you to listen to?
I play Snaketress when that happens.
Some of my characters have these great, vibrant backstories that they're cooperatively helping me write. Other characters just want to drive the car.
I like driving the car. Okay, I
He's
took
really good at
Philo-
knocking stuff over, to be fair.
I do it one time. I hit Pancetta one time with my car.
That's all it takes, man.
I know. So, I like playing it. It's fun learning the rules.
What about
and
you,
everything.
Nicole? What is your favorite part of being at the tabletop experience?
Well, honestly, our Shadowrun game is the first campaign I've made it past a few weeks with. And so it's been very, very
There's something appealing to it, obviously.
obviously. Well, I mean, there's been different reasons for stuff, like, a group just kind of organically falls apart because, life. And then, sometimes there's just not the right kind of chemistry. And, there's a couple different factors. But in any case, Shadowrun, I was not ready for it because I just had the idea of role-playing games as a D&D type thing. But I'm super into it now, as is evidenced by, as will be evidenced by what you hear later on from my character.
Stay tuned
But-
in like 3 months from now or something.
Right. But I don't know. I've been interested in the tabletop RPG kind of world for a while, and I've attempted it a couple of times with mixed results. But this is the first successful campaign where like everybody likes each other and we actually get stuff done, and it's really satisfying. And I'm so happy that I finally found a kind of home group for that.
And I definitely want to say you don't always find a good group. Like, I've definitely been with people who I'm just you'll feel it. Like when you're in a toxic group, you can kind of feel the poison. And it's good to have a group that doesn't make you feel like that. That's a good sign that
Yeah.
you're in the right place.
Yeah.
No, I
And-
mean, like, I consider all you guys like legit friends. So
Everyone but Nathan.
And
No,
so,
okay.
just so you know, this is getting really mushy. And like when anything gets mushy, I'm going to run away. So thank you for being here, Cyberpunk Monk.
Thank you for being here, Aroa Punk Monk.
I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's not who you are.
Whoever
Okay,
I
now-
am.
but now like legally you have to do an Aroa impression, Connor.
Yeah, I was glad to be here. I gotta go play some World of Warcraft now. I gotta wait for my cooldowns to finish.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, Nicole.
Thank you guys for having me. Hanging out with my friends is a great thing to do on my Mother's Day.
You're welcome. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day.
Before we go, I wanted to say, so have you ever heard of a half birthday? It's part of like apparently Alice in Wonderland, like 6 months,
Yeah.
every 6 months, so you get your half birthday. And somebody told me about that years ago, and I was like, oh, that should be coming up for my girlfriend. So I looked it up, and it's tomorrow.
Oh, you should do something really cute for her. That would
I
be
bought
amazing.
I bought her 2 half pies for her
That's so
half
cute.
birthday.
That's
um,
adorable.
Because the Safeway here will sell half of a pie, and so I bought her
That's
half
cool.
of a strawberry rhubarb pie and half of an apple pie. And she's like, "You
Nice.
got me pie? I'm on a diet." And I was like, "Have pie." Because
Have you considered eating pie about it?
yeah, she's like, "I was gonna have a smoothie." I'm like, "Ah, you can have a piece of pie instead." And she's like, "Well,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to eat most of it."
Oh,
And so
darn.
I ate a piece. She
Took
ate
one
a
for the team,
piece.
man.
And then she ate another piece. Anyway,
I think you get it. I
Yeah.
think you know her a little bit.
I do.
That's
So
that's cute.
I have been your host, Nathan Reins. Ruth, we'll be back next week. Thank you for being here. Goodbye.
Bye. Make Serena Toxin today.